New Year's Day is a weird holiday for me, right? New Year's Day is a strange one because, I was confused all day. I had no idea what day it was. I thought I was preaching the next day is this a Saturday? What is happening? I'm not ready yet. My wife kept having to remind me it was a Thursday. But I kept getting confused all day long. And then you get confused. You don't know what year it is anymore. I still think it's 2019 in some part of my body. I'm living in denial that it's still before COVID when everything seemed happy and fun. And unlike Christmas, in our tradition in Christmas, we dress up for lunch, right? So in the middle of the day, we're going to have this big lunch at my in-laws' house, and we dress up. And kids ask, why are we dressing up? And it's well, because Grandma and Grandpa want us to dress up. And then Grandma and Grandpa are going, why do we dress up for this? And no one knows. It's a mystery why we all dress up for Christmas. But New Year's is different, isn't it? I went to Bel Air near my house in Woodland at 5 p.m. It was dark. It had gotten dark, I don't know, at 2 in the afternoon, whatever time it gets dark these days. And I went in, and there were I counted 8 to 10 people fully in their pajamas. Fully they were still there. You could tell when people pajamas are a choice. I chose pajamas. And you can also tell when they have never left the pajamas. And these people had never left the pajamas. They were wandering around. They were in their pajamas. They were still in their Uggs, their slippers, and just living their best life, in a raincoat, but in their pajamas. And I started to judge, because that's what I do. I like to mock when I don't understand things. And then I remembered something, that I myself had not taken my pajamas off till 3 p.m. that day, because I played Fallout all day long on my couch. And to celebrate New Year's like you do, you play video games all day. You know what I'm talking about, all of you. Larry knows what I'm talking about back here. So I remembered that I had just done this. And I remembered my whole family had not taken their pajamas off. And in fact, one of them had driven home, and they just stayed in their pajamas and drove home. And my wife's like, they just left in their pajamas. We're like, yep, they sure did. 6 in the evening, they just totally left. We could just not be bothered on New Year's, could we? New Year's is a totally bonkers holiday. There's something about staying in pajamas, isn't there? There's something about, it's a kind of protest to life, I think, where you're like, I am not adulting today. Today, I will not be an adult. I will be staying in these. This is my protest for the day. I'm staying in the pajamas all day. And if you're really good, you just go right to bed and you never have to do anything. It's magnificent. I refuse to adult. I refuse to be responsible. I have nothing left. I am empty. I am crashed, so I am going to leave the pajamas on. We're a little exhausted, I think, after the last year. I could feel it. I could feel it through Christmas, not just for me, but for everyone around here, everyone in the church, and everyone in my family. And we were forced to take, as we're forced to take a holiday, I think New Year's is one of those holidays where we almost have to crash. Finally we have a day, the Christmas season's over, there are maybe less expectations on that day, maybe you did a little too much on New Year's Eve, and suddenly you just crash on New Year's Day. Paul uses the word, when you're totally exhausted, he uses the word weary. Weary. I like the word weary. Weary is something past tired, something past what one good nap or one good day off can fix. Weary is a bone-deep exhaustion. Weary has a weight element to it for me. Weary is like this kind of thing, you're so weary, pajamas stay on, right? And weary has this weight on the shoulders. And we hit a holiday, and we stop sprinting, and we stop moving. Suddenly the weight becomes apparent, doesn't it? And the weariness kicks in, and suddenly you're aware of just how weary you are. For some of you, you get so weary and you burn yourself out so much, God has to make you sick to get a day off. Anybody like that? God gives you, yes, exactly. God gives you a cold. He's like, for me to you, so you get a day off. You're like, I can't. I have to answer emails. Don't do it. What makes you weary? I have a question here on the slide here. On the scale of weariness, where do you find yourself these days? Perhaps you hear weary and you're like, I am good. I slept for 2 weeks. I haven't seen another human. I am ready to go back to work. But some of us, we came out, and as Theron mentioned, we need a vacation from our holidays. It feels like more weight got added during the holidays, not less. For some of us, our family dynamics aren't perfect. As one great pastor said, I am a part of a dysfunctional family. We all have dysfunctional families. And we hit the holidays, these things hit us, don't they? The old pains, the old hurts, and they add to the weary weight on our shoulders. What might life be like if you weren't bone tired and weary? Can you imagine even that at all? What would life be like if you weren't weary anymore? Pajamas remind me that as Christians in America, we are completely ignoring a commandment of God. So as I saw pajamas around that day, it became this interesting trigger to remind me that we miss out on something God has promised us. We miss out on one of the best things he has for us. So this morning in this series, we're going to explore that. Today will be a basic introduction, and we'll have some other folks preach, like Susan Cosio and others, on rest. And we're excited to have a conversation as we start this new year to invite you into habits of Sabbath rest. We're going to be in a very famous passage this morning. Exodus 20 is the famous 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not. Just a list of them from the King James Bible. By the way, I saw this on a reel the other day. I don't know if it was true or not, but this girl thought the King James Bible was written by LeBron James. It is not written by LeBron James, friends. It's a little hair older than that. There was a King James from around 1611, and he didn't even write it either. His friends wrote it, and he took credit for it, like every good king. So we're in that old sense of thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not steal. These are the famous 10 Commandments that we put everywhere in America. We put them on monuments, we fight to keep them in classrooms, and we just ignore the fourth one. Ignore it. As Americans, we almost take pride in ignoring the fourth commandment. So let's look at the fourth ignored commandment. I'm going to pray. We'll be in Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11 today. Let us discuss the ignored commandment. Father, these are some of the ancient teachings you gave a people you called out of slavery to help keep them well and healthy. Lord, these 10 Commandments are teachings you have given them and now us to show what a full, good life looks like and the boundaries needed for that life. Father, this morning as we approach these commandments, may we approach them with your wisdom and not black and white thinking. Help us to explore with wisdom how to apply them today. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Exodus 20 verse 8 says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your sons or daughters, nor your male or female servants, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your town. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. I have the first verse on the screen here for you. Just hear the words, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. It's amazing, if you ever read the Old Testament especially, how much of it just is trying to remind people of things they already know. I don't know if you know this, but you pay myself, Susan, Parker, Sarah, Amy, as your pastors, to just tell you things you should remember. And half the things we tell you, you'll be like, oh yeah, that. I am a beloved child of God. Oh yeah, I do need to kind of ask for forgiveness. Oh yeah, I do need to remember who I am. We remind and we remind. In fact, one of the great sins of the Bible is to forget. It's one of the great sins of the prophets. You have forgotten. You can hear the words of Revelation of St. John. You have forgotten your first love. Forgetting is a sin. Remembering is the cure. We remember. And what do we do with communion? We do this in remembrance. We do this in remembrance. So to remember something is a massive command in the Bible, and it's attached to this very special day. Remember in your busy lives, remember as you sprint through life, do not forget these important things. Remember the Sabbath day. You may not know this, but in ancient Hebrew culture, they would take Friday at sunset to Saturday at sunset completely off. You were not allowed to work. We'll actually talk about it in a couple of weeks. If you did work, you were killed. You were killed. You were like, nope, we take this very seriously. You do not work. You do not work on the Sabbath. We take it off. There's no work done. There was huge lists of rules around this for them. They took Friday night to Saturday night completely off. No work. No commerce, all stores are closed. Imagine stores closed on Christmas. Could you imagine that? There was nothing more depressing than when I pulled out of my mom's house and there was a line at McDonald's on Christmas Day. Something was lost there for me. I like getting my Starbucks on Christmas still, so take it easy. But there was something lost that people were in the McDonald's drive-thru on that day. I did not get Starbucks that day. No commerce. You went to temple, synagogue, spent time with family and with friends. When I was out of high school, I got to go to Israel twice in my early 20s. And I remember there's this famous square called Ben Yehuda in Jerusalem, and it is like Times Square in New York. And you hit Friday at sunset, and boop, it's gone. Nothing is open. There is not a person in sight. And you hit Saturday at sunset, it is party central. But it is the craziest thing to be in Jerusalem because the town shuts down. This is still an incredibly serious thing to the Jewish people today in Israel. You do not work on the Sabbath day of rest. The Sabbath was serious business. Now this was a nation of ex-slaves. Remember, these were people worked to the bone for 7 days a week by the people of Egypt, by the Pharaoh. They were used up, spit out, weight was put on their shoulders, no breaks, work all the time. I think they were gig employees, we would call them today. You never rest, you never stop. You answer the emails when they come in. You never stop, you never stop. And so, these people who were slaves, God saw them with compassion, and he gave them a command they knew they would need the most, which was, you don't work 1 day a week. No matter how rich or poor you are, you don't work 1 day a week. You stop, and you rest, and you exist. You just are. So when God invited these people to be his people, he gave them rest as the great gift, as a part of the freedom of their slavery. By the way, my first point of this is we utterly ignore this command in America as individuals, families, church, and nation, period. Now, I think a lot of you, I still do it. I have a habit of it. That's wonderful. But I still remember there were blue laws. Remember these blue laws? And you couldn't do certain things on Sundays. And every state would have a list of certain things you would have, and you would just not do certain things on a Sunday. No gambling on Sundays. Take it easy. Don't go to Cache Creek on Sundays. You go there Saturday nights like a good Christian, and you ask forgiveness on Sunday mornings. Too close to home? Sorry about that, yeah. So we have this thing that we do not take Sabbath seriously. It's terribly old-fashioned. Who has time for a day off? We ignore a 10 commandment. You ignore one of the other ones, you get in big trouble. Well, the other one, we ignore don't covet either, do we? Because Instagram and Facebook are all about envying other people. So 2 of them we ignore. One we do very, very openly, which is the Sabbath. Remember the Sabbath. We do not remember the Sabbath. We do not respect rest. The second I try and rest, do you know how much guilt slams into me that I should be doing something? Anybody with me on that one? I should be doing something. I should be productive as I played Fallout all day. I was very productive. I finished several missions. We do not take this seriously. I think we find it old-fashioned. We're too busy. We have things to do. Or the worst thing, if we rest, we will fall behind. If our kids rest, they will fall behind. And friends, we might. We might fall behind. God never told you how to keep up. Sorry. He told you how to be a beloved child of God. And that's what Sabbath is for. Next slide. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. You get 6 days for that. Put it in 80-hour weeks, 6 days. Or as is commonly known, a normal full-time schedule in Silicon Valley, 80-hour weeks. 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. It's like a tithe in time. A tithe, if you don't know what a tithe is, like some people give 10% of their income, they give a certain percentage. It's like taking your week and saying, 1 day of this isn't mine. It's not my day at all. It's a day that's to God, it says, to the Lord your God. God gets 1 day a week, a day to the Lord. And by the way, this is not just any Lord. This is Adonai, is his name, our God, your God. This is the God that chose you and the God that you chose back. This is that God you're taking a day for. This is not just any God. This is not a God that doesn't exist. This is the God you have experienced, that has forgiven you, that has called you back into life. By the way, I do think this is the verse we get stuck on. These commandments from God feel like rules from a teacher or a government to me sometimes. It's like, don't speed. I'm like, now I have to go 71 miles an hour because you put a sign up, and I have to show you who's the boss, and that's me. God, this is what we do, right? Don't do this or that. Why? Because I said so, and I'm God. I think that's how we've taught these commandments in the past, and it just doesn't work for me. Adonai chose a people as his own people, the Jewish people. He cared for them way more than they ever cared for themselves. If you don't know what the Bible story is, God cared for the people of Israel more than they ever cared for themselves. They were self-destructive, self-absorbed, and God came for them again and again and again and again. Read Judges. I love the Judges cycle, where it's like they messed up, God came and saved them. They messed up again, God came. It's almost like a bad soap opera at that point. We see the cycles of God, and we see that God calls us. This heart of love is what screams at you, take a Sabbath. It is a heart of a loving God that has infused love into the universe that says, remember to rest. Remember who you are. Remember the Sabbath. I think sometimes if we heard the compassion in the commandments, we would hear them and apply them much differently. Take a Sabbath once a week. Rest. Remember to do this over and over. Here's some of your rules for the Sabbath on the next slide. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your sons or daughters, nor your male or female servants, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your town. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. So a deep part of Sabbath for the Hebrew people and now the Jewish people is it is part of their identity. Wherever they went, they were the people that rested. And sometimes their persecution came from the fact that when they were in Rome, they didn't work Saturdays. And the Romans were like, hey, we got stuff to do, we got commerce, and they're like, we don't do that. Because at the heart of who we are is rest. At the heart of who we are in God is a day of rest, a day of Sabbath. It helped keep them separate and different and holy from the cultures in which they found themselves landing, including, by the way, America. We rest one day a week. It is a day for our God. That's who we are. Those are the Jewish friends who we are invited from. Robert Alter, the great Jewish scholar from UC Berkeley, notes that Sabbath here shows us two parts, first, of who God is. First, God is creator, isn't he? God is the creator on the second part. He is the one who creates, and rest is infused into creation, which we'll get into a little bit later in the series. So to be in Sabbath is to be with the Creator. To be in Sabbath is to be at rest. This is why none of us like this, by the way. To be at rest is just to be a created being. That's it. That's all you have in rest. You don't have titles. You don't have anything. You have no control. That's why I don't always like rest as a good workaholic. Because in the moment of rest, I am simply a created being. I'm a created being who's sitting here and remembering I've been created, remembering I haven't built my life nearly as much as I probably think I have, and I am grateful to a creator. The Jewish people remembered they were created, and they were grateful to a creator when they rested. We are created, and we don't near have the power we think we do, and so rest reminds us we don't have that. So God is the creator, and God is the great liberator. God is the one who frees us. Remember, see what he says here, on it you will not do work, neither you, your sons, daughters, your male or female servants. The word is actually slaves here. Sabbath reminds us that God is freeing us, and on the Sabbath day of rest, the Hebrews remembered they were a freed people. And so top to bottom in their civilization, richest to poorest, everybody gets to rest. On that day, we're all equals, we're all liberated, we're all freed in the eyes of God because we all get to rest. And in that moment, we're the same kinds of people. We are freed people in Christ when we are at rest. So your two things at rest, we are both a created being and a freed creature through the life, death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The Jewish people were the people who rested. That's who they were. Because when they rested, they were created and liberated. Maybe it's the way we keep our identity as believers, beloved of God, when we rest. One day a week, we are not consumers. We are not employees. We are not students. We are not pieces of data to be bought and sold. We are a free, created, beloved people when we rest. On the Sabbath, we stop doing and getting our identity from work, and we remember we are beloved children of God, and that nothing can separate us from the love of God, even if you failed a test. And for some of you, failure I know is a B+. I accept that. This is Davis. That's a proper laugh. Parents like, that's true. I told him that myself this week. We remember that cannot separate us from God. We remember that failure at work cannot separate us from God. Getting fired can't separate us from God. Not having a job can't separate us from God. One day a week when we rest, we remember we're created, we are liberated, we are loved. But I do have a hard question for you. And as any good sermon series, I like to leave you with more questions than answers for you to consider. Is a Sabbath day of rest even possible in our culture? I'd like you to walk with that. Is this even a possibility for you in your life? Is this something you could pull off, your families could pull off, our nation could pull off, our church could pull off? This question haunts me. A culture of constant connection to work, where our identities are wrapped up in our grades and our jobs and our successes, is rest even a possibility? A whole day, that's just a waste of time. Can you feel it? You feel the whisper from outside this room, can't you? It's a waste of time. You have things to do. You have money to make. You have things to get accomplished. You have homework to do. Why are you resting? There are things to do. And if we are not resting, what kind of people are we becoming? That scares me the most. In an entire culture, we have given up Sabbath and rest and trusting that God knows best for us with rest. What kind of people are we becoming, constantly connected and leashed with our phones to work? What kind of people are we becoming? If it doesn't hit home strong enough, what kind of people are our kids and grandkids becoming? That might help a little more. What kind of people are our kids and grandkids being formed to be when they have no rest in their lives? We don't teach them and model it to them. I was speaking with one of our pastors the other day, and we realized that pastors are a little like doctors. Take it easy. Just a little like doctors. And we give prescriptions, and probably not the one you want, much like doctors. And we're going to give you a prescription, and usually you're going to come to us and you want advice like, okay, if you do this in your marriage, it'll be perfect. We don't have that advice for you. 99% of my prescriptions are this these days. Take a Sabbath this week. Take a day off and do rest. I want you to rest. For some of you, I want you to be alone. For some of you, I want you to spend it with friends. We'll work with you. But most of the time, my prescription to you as pastor is a day off, a Sabbath. It's pretty easy. Rest, do things that give you life. Do things that aren't work to you. Take a Sabbath. So this month, I want you to experiment with rest. That's it. I want you to experiment on what rest could be in your life, what rest and Sabbath could be in your weekly rhythms. I want you to explore the time of rest and to be with God, a day or time given to God. I'm going to ask you for just 3 hours, the attempt for 3 hours. You're like, that's not quite a day. No, I know how to do math. But I'm going to just go for 3 hours, a wedge in your time. Think of it like jaws of life. You're going to throw it into your schedule, and you're going to pry out 3 hours. And you're going to say, this is rest for me. This is rest. Rules. Now, a couple rules for Sabbath. We'll give you more and more advice. You can see the videos where some of our folks are going to be sharing what rest is for them. I hope you have conversations, what rest is and what work is. What do we take off on certain days? I know it's a bit odd, but like for some of us who work in our offices all week, for me, I used to rest by going out to my grandfather's farm and driving a tractor and working with my hands. It sounds silly, but I sat and did mental work all week. I needed to work with my hands. That's how I rested. Nothing like disking a field that Grandpa didn't want me to disc, but I just wanted to drive a tractor, so I did it anyway. So these are the things we do. We learn rest rhythms. So first part of rest, rule number 1, you have to plan it. It doesn't just happen. Do not just bail on your spouse, by the way. Boy, I'm resting. Jeremiah said so. Do not throw me under that bus. Take it easy. I hope no hate mail from a spouse this week. Thank you very much. You should know, your work should know the difference between Sabbath and day off. And you may have to say, hey, I'm taking these 3 hours. I'm taking these 6 hours. I'm not going to be available. My phone will not be on me. I threw it in the ocean. I'm going to get a new one tomorrow. So we do not work and whatever. So that is the space. You have to plan the Sabbath. You have to schedule it. It's got to be there. You have to communicate it with those you love that I am not going to be doing work-based things for these 3 to 6 hours or whatever you choose. Number 2, it's really easy and really hard. No work for those 3 to 6 hours, whatever you choose. No email, no texting work, nothing that feels like work. On my Sabbath days, I call it a pinch. It pinches like work. And there are things that aren't work, but make me put my pastor hat on. And if my pastor hat is on, I have to not do that thing. There are times when my family needs me, not my immediate family, but my extended family. They need me in a certain way because they're going through a crisis, and it feels like my pastor hat's on. So you know what I do? I don't put the pastor hat on that day. I rest from that for that day. I call them back on Saturday, because mine is also Friday, my Sabbath. So 1, plan it. 2, no work. Those are the only rules for now. Try it for 3 hours. See how it goes. You're going to feel guilty the first hour. Take it easy. Power through it. The last 2 are going to be great. First one's going to be miserable. You're going to be, I should be doing something. Put the phone down. Go for a walk. You're going to be okay. You're an addict to activity. I am an addict to activity. When you stop, you go into withdrawals. Rest will be something different. I have a picture of Jesus here. As we think about rest, and as our band comes back up, as we enter a time of singing together, I want you to hear the passage I read during communion, but hear it from the Message version. This is the scripture of, you who are weary and burdened, come to me and I will give you rest. And he says this in the Message, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion and on life? Come to me. Get away with me and you will recover your life. I will show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Keep company with Jesus and you will learn to live freely and lightly. And we keep company with Jesus and we will learn to live freely and lightly. How faithful is this Jesus to us? How faithful is he that when we sprint through our lives, he helps us to remember who we are. Would you stand and honor our Lord this morning with song?